Now I'm very excited to bring back a man who's been capping since 1992. You've heard him on radio shows all across the United States, podcasts all over the nation. Very happy to welcome back Mr. Tony George from DocSports.com. You can follow him on Twitter at TGeorgeSports. Tony, my man, had a blast with you last week. I know you canceled the golf game for me today. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It was nice seeing you in Vegas down there. I thought I was a big shot in town. Here you are doing podcasts at Circa and hanging out with VSiN guys and running around. And nonetheless, it was great to see you. And of course, one of those weeks this week as we launch, we got through last week, we put out 2 games and won them both. And one surprise last week. I'm sure you're going to bring it up. But other than that, I'm speaking with guarded optimism for this year, and I'm well prepared. I'm coming off a year that's going to be awfully hard to duplicate. We had a 86% run with our top picks last year in college football, 14-2. And I know that sounds like a lie. That's how good it was. It sounds like a lie, but they're documented over there. And over 60% with our college picks. So we've set the bar high. It's kind of one of those weeks out of the gate, Kiev, where you can't see the forest because of all the trees in some respects. There's a lot of podcasts, and I know you're doing a crap load of them. So am I, and radio spots and stuff. And everybody wants to know about every game on the board, and I would just say everybody needs to calm down, take a deep breath, find 3 or 4 this weekend you really like and hammer on those. And it's that time of year where about 90% of the stuff that you're doing is purely based on speculation. You just hope you did your homework in the off season and got your power numbers right or somewhat right out of the gate. There's been an awful lot of line movement this week that's taken some of the value out of a lot of picks that I wanted.
Oh, that's very true. I mean, it's a humbling experience for sure in Vegas. Some of the people I look up to and had a fantastic time. Wade over there at Doc Sports as well. Just had a blast. But yes, I can't agree with you any more about how important it is to pump the brakes. Even with the most information in the entire world from every single beat writer, you still have a much larger variance of outcomes in college football compared to the NFL and compared to actually a lot of other sports.
Right.
Basketball, you got your 5-star recruits, you got your 4-star, who's doing good just from that. And their floor is a lot higher. There's a lot of teams that could crash and burn with really good recruits. We've seen a little bit about that last week. And there's also teams with no recruits that can come up and actually do something extremely well and be amazing. Remember those years of UAB, Bill Clark, when he came in with nothing, won the conference. I mean, that's what happens. And that's why you're seeing a lot of noise in the marketplace, like, oh, I told you Nevada would suck, or not Nevada, I mean, Wyoming would suck. Well, you don't know that for sure. Wyoming could have been paying good. And there's a lot
everybody thought Nebraska was going to be good.
I hate to ask you this, but man, I know you're a Husker fan, and I was going to bring up old Nebraska only with your permission. But how does it feel? You've been through this too long now, and then you give the guy another chance, which is probably past. You're probably 3 chances past his last chance right now, Tony.
Yeah,
then he blows it.
Yeah, and that was a good example of kind of what you were talking about. That line got as high as 14 and then dropped to 11. And then when all the shows started coming on television Saturday morning, Fox, CBS, ESPN Game Day, all these different shows talking about, they've got Whipple, the offensive coordinator from Pitt, that's a 30-some year coach and used to be with the Steelers, won the Super Bowl with Roethlisberger, got Kenny Pickett to the NFL last year at Pitt, helped him win an ACC title, and he's going to call all the plays. Frost is backing off, and, they got Casey Thompson from Texas at quarterback and the transfer portal, and Nebraska ranked 7th in the nation in transfer portal strength in terms of getting talent in there. And then you got Matt Leinart going on their picks before the game, Nebraska by 17, and Peterson said Nebraska by at least 9, and all these numbers, and it shot up to 12.5, 13. I didn't put it out, but I bet Northwestern. The minute I saw that, I go, no way. And guess what it was? It was freaking Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, except replacing Bill Murray was Scott Frost doing the same shit that he did last year and making bonehead calls with the onside kick and the defense that was just a funnel to the end zone, and the defensive line was shot, and the quarterback late in the game on crucial plays threw picks. It was Adrian Martinez 2.0, and I think you might have even liked my tweet I put out. I can't remember. I had a bunch of likes on it. I think you did. And I says, well, the Scott Frost farewell tour has begun in Ireland. And so nonetheless, but that was an example of a lot of hype. You know, and I had said last week with one of your good buddies, Kyle Hunter, I did a podcast with him. I've got a podcast I do, and it's always live on Twitter on Fridays. I said, you know, I'm not buying into all this stuff at Nebraska. I said, until they show me they can close a game out, you know, I mean, there's just, you can't back them. You can't back them you just can't back them, dude.
Scott Frost is the one that was responsible for this absolute debacle. They start out great, beautiful catch in the touch end zone, 7-0. You know, they're up by 11, and then they do an onside kick. It's like, how the heck do you even allow this man to even get on the plane and get off the plane in Nebraska? For, you know, special teams was a tough thing for them last year, and you freaking do this high variance, low productivity play. You know, it's if it goes against you, you're just handed it back. And then he got massively outcoached. It wasn't just that; it was the defense. I mean, the whole middle of the field was disgustingly wide open on these quick slant routes from the slot and from the tight end. You know, Then they try to adjust to that. The running backs wide open in the flat. It looked too easy for Northwestern. It was just a debacle. But going back to what I was saying about Nevada too. You know, everyone had Nevada as the worst team, and they didn't play well at all. Don't get me wrong; they I believe, outgained, but they still covered that massive spread. I went to, you know, I had a ticket plus 11 or no plus 10.5, and they lost by 11. You know, it was just pathetic football by New Mexico State. You know, and
well, the 5 turnovers didn't help them.
Yeah, the 5 turnovers didn't help. So you know, people are going to come up with narratives right now, and that's why spreads get overbought. And that's why week 0 teams are only 44 against the spread in general when they come into week 1. So remember that, you know, there's still one that I kind of like coming into week 1 that might buck that. But I'm not going to get too excited. I'm not throwing money on Nevada. As a matter of fact, Nevada went down against Texas State, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not throwing money on Northwestern their first game. You know, after that big win in Dublin, just kind of think about that. Really important to know when to play these things and when they're going to get a little bit overvalued. So that's what we're here for, Tony. And we got a big slate of games coming on. And what me and you can just kind of give our advice. You know, we have some premium plays that we're not giving out, obviously, to clients, but we're just going to, you know, break down some big games and tell you what we're leaning. And that doesn't mean it might become a play in the near future, right?
Sure.
Let's start out then, my man. And
sure.
I picked the game for Thursday. You know, right away Thursday we have Central Michigan versus Oklahoma State, and I'm going to start out hot with this one. This one went from 21.5 down to 20, back up to 22.5, now back down to 21.5. Very interesting line move back and forth in here. You can tell there's a lot of disagreement in the marketplace on this one. I'm actually on a side here, and I'm going to explain why. I mean, this is a good MAC team versus a good Big 12 team, right? You can almost say they were great, but you have to look at the difference. What's the difference between, you're looking at 17 points here. A good Big 12 team is probably 10 points above the average team. A good MAC team is probably about maybe 4 points below the average team. So in my opinion, this is a little bit fat of a line. Oklahoma State returned Spencer Sanders from their offense, but they lost a ton of defense, only ranking 128th in returning production. They lost Jim Knowles to Ohio State, which is very interesting. That's a big blow, I think, to them. They do at least, like, the only two guys they're returning are their two defensive ends, which is probably a good thing. But still, Oklahoma State, if you look the last couple of years, how they started the season off, they only beat Tulsa by 8 in 2020. Last year, they only beat Missouri State by 7 and then Tulsa by 5. They just have very poor starts to the season. I think part of that is because of Spencer Sanders. And I think Central Michigan, a pretty good MAC team that finished last year with 5 wins in a row, including Washington State in the Sun Bowl. I just think that this line's a little bit too big. I took it at the 21 plus. I took the 21. I took 21 in the hook, and I took it for a couple stars. And I like the fact that they return 8 guys on offense, including their quarterback, Daniel Richardson. So my number's about minus 18. What were your thoughts?
Well, they're well coached. That's number one. You saw that in the bowl game last year. One guy you didn't mention that you need to mention is Lou Nichols. He's one of the best running backs in the MAC. He had 1,800 yards last year. He's got a good line in front of him. Now, Oklahoma State, believe it or not, a couple of things here. Mike Gundy is not the world's greatest coach. You know, he gets a lot of press, and T. Boone Pickens used to gave him all the money and gave him all the improvements. He still couldn't win a Big 12 title. And the bottom line here is their defense took a big hit. Now, last year, Mike Gundy had a defense, which you haven't been able to say that. Oklahoma State was one of those teams that we really don't care about defense. We're just going to outscore you. We're just going to go wide open. They like a lot of those 45, 42 football games, and they just like to come out on top. And that never got them anywhere, you know. Especially against Oklahoma and Texas, because Texas, they say you want to get in a shootout. Guess what? We got a lot of ammunition, more than you do up in Stillwater. So we're going to go ahead and beat you. You'll give us a ball game, but we're going to beat you. So he got himself a defense last year, 18 points per game allowed. That's one of the top 20 in the nation. I mean, they had a good defense last year, kept them in a lot of games, but I think Central Michigan is going to do a nice job of running the ball, which is going to eat up the clock and going to keep the score down a little bit and bring in those big points. And I tell you what, this thing opened up at 61, opened up at 64 on the look-ahead lines back in like April out here. You know, they have the look-ahead lines you can bet. And then it opened up then, and it's been bet down now to 59. I still think there's a little value even in the under there. I think Central Michigan's not going to get, well, if they want to get into a shootout, they probably couldn't win it based on what their offense is capable of doing. But I think they can expose some new guys on the defensive front for Oklahoma State here. And I think that I'd lean with you. I think Central Michigan probably there. That's too many points. And also it might be a lot. I can see a 32-17 type ball game here, Kev.
Yeah. And the under, it was another interesting look here for these teams. You know, Oklahoma State had to speed up the tempo a little bit at times, but their defense kind of kept them out of it. The only thing that worries me is both teams replace a lot of defense. So you wonder if they're gonna get stopped that much. But I do like the rushing attack, like you mentioned, from Central Michigan here. And Jim McElwain is a decent coach, like you said.
Very good coach.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And he's got some guys returning on offense now, so I expect them to click right off the bat. I think that a backdoor could happen too. They could be down 24 points and very easily backdoored the end zone right there. Let's move on.
The one thing that I didn't bring up, I did want to agree with you. Season openers have eluded Mike Gundy in terms of big wins.
Yeah.
I mean, he for some reason, I remember who they played last year. Was it Tulsa? And I like Tulsa. I took Tulsa in that game last year, right first, against them. They were getting a number, and hell, they could have beat them.
Yeah, yeah. Tulsa was in that game the whole game, both years in a row.
Yeah.
Tulsa should have been the year before too. So Tulsa had their number, but Missouri State, an FCS school, only winning by a couple points. That is just embarrassing. And so I hate the way they've been starting out this season, the last few years. And this Central Michigan MAC team was one of the best MAC teams. They just missed because that stinking Northern Illinois loss that they had. They would have been in the MAC championship.
Yeah,
had it not been that. So
yeah,
they're one of my top 3 MAC teams. I have Toledo, Central Michigan, maybe Northern Illinois, but probably those 2 are sitting on top for me.
Yeah, Toledo's going to have a good football. It's going to boil down. They're going to be in the mix right till the very end.
Yeah, 100% agree. Let's move on to the next game, and one you picked, Louisiana Monroe versus Texas. Texas 37.5. God, did I even write the total down? What was it, like 69 or something?
It is. The total here is it's down to 64.5.
Okay.
Which plays in it. The look ahead line on this was 71. And then it opened at 67 here when the lines finally came out here a couple weeks ago, and now it's down to 64.5, and they're catching 37. To me, this is a no-brainer. And bear in mind, when we're giving you these picks, folks, we're not telling you to sell the 401k and grandma's bonds here. These are my best stuff's going to be over at Doc Sports. But looking at this game, and I do this a lot, Texas got Alabama on deck. They're not going to show jack crap here. Nothing. Right. Sarkisian's not going to show anything. They're breaking in a new quarterback. Ewers is here. He's from Ohio State. He's going to play. He's not going to play starters past mid-third quarter in this game. Not going to do it. I like the under, and I like UL Monroe. I'd take them. Then I got them earlier at like damn near 40-some. They're sitting 37.5 right now. 37.5 is a consensus line I just picked up looking here on the computer. I'd lean UL Monroe. I think that Texas with a big game on deck, and Texas has obviously, number one, more talent at skill positions, like times to the nth degree. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're not going to see them all day. They're going to try and beat Alabama. Of course, they're not going to beat Alabama, but they want to give them a ball game. They want everybody healthy. They're going to use this as a tune-up game. They're going to be real conservative with play calling. Probably the best lean here probably be under 64.5.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Louisiana Monroe, unfortunately, was a terrible team last year.
Horrible.
I don't know what the I've never seen them this bad, but they had that one big win last year against Liberty. And that was kind of interesting. Then they beat South Alabama, but then their schedule got a little tricky. App State at LSU later in the season, and they kept up with LSU and only lost by 13 points to LSU. And then they played their in-state rival at Louisiana, only lost by 5 points. So that's an interesting look you have there. They returned Chandler Rogers as their quarterback. So my number's 31. Right. So I'm leaning towards your way here. The scary thing is that Bijan Robinson and all the talent, Quinn Ewers transferring from Ohio State, obviously kicked Thompson right out of there. But I gotta say, man, they don't return a ton of other guys on offense, and that offense, if it's a little shaky, is definitely a little worrisome. I think this is one that I'm going to wait for to see if there's more public that are going to come in on Texas. And I wonder if more sharp action comes in on under 64.5, because if Monroe can sniff 20 points, then this gets a little dangerous. You're looking at 45 to, let's just call it 42 to 21, and you're at 63 already. So this thing got a little out of my probably where I can bet it, but I definitely will lean Monroe with you right there, especially how they finished last year.
Right. Well, it's David versus Goliath. But Monroe played some really good Power 5 teams real well last year. They've got a decent amount of starters returning, but you've got a team that this is their Super Bowl versus a team that wants to play deacon dunk football and get out of here healthy.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
and
Yep.
so there's an opportunity not for UL Monroe to win, because that if they won, they'd fire Sarkisian after the game and just pay him off, say go away. So UL Monroe's not going to beat them, but Texas is going to. They are in a complete look-ahead spot, and anybody with a brain knows that. They just want to get out of here healthy.
They don't want to show their playbook to Nick Saban.
No.
Yeah, there's no way they want to even come close to doing something like that. So very interesting point right there. Let's move on to the next game. We have Oregon versus Georgia. And I have Georgia minus 17. Is it still minus 17? To pull it up here. I don't like giving out stale lines here.
No, I just looked at it a minute ago.
All right, minus 17 and the total 52.5. Now, I have a play on this, and it got away from me a little bit by a half point. I just don't see that this Georgia team, who they have, of course, they replaced with 4- and 5-star guys. We know that with Kirby Smart. But I also argue that Kirby Smart, we don't know how he is after a championship year. I know you can trust Nick Saban after a championship, obviously, but Kirby Smart, they still might be on honeymoon here. Yeah. And they lost Danny Lanning to Oregon as their head coach, their defensive coordinator. So there's nobody better than, Danny Lanning other than Kirby Smart that knows this Georgia team, and Danny Lanning is going to be able to stop them. But at the same time, you have a bunch of kids for Georgia that said, well, we want to take it to our old defensive coordinator and show them that, we're the best. I wouldn't be shocked if Oregon doesn't score many points at all, 3 to 10 points. But I also would be very shocked if Georgia absolutely blows them out here against their old defensive coach that's going to have these kids motivated. I took the under 52. I'm surprised it went up to 52.5. I still like it for a couple stars, Tony.
Yeah, I'm agree with you there. I was going to say under. If I had to take a side in this, I'd probably take Oregon in the first half plus 10. That was a number that was floating around out there. Now you're going to lose a little value now because it's dropped, but you've got the mentor versus the apprentice here, in the coaching department. But who knows them better than Lanning? I mean, He was on staff, and you've kind of got the now you've got the honeymoon hangover a little bit with Georgia. Obviously, a very good team. They had to replace a lot of guys with a bunch of other studs, but I could see Oregon hanging around in the first half, and then just the depth and sheer talent that Georgia has over Oregon, getting into the second half of game. I could see it getting away from them and them not covering the number. But honestly, I don't see Georgia having over 32 points here.
Yeah, it's so interesting how they lost their best receiver to transfer. That was the best returning receiver, obviously Pickens being gone, right? Mm-hmm. But it was just very strange to see him go to Alabama making a vertical move. But that tells you a lot about what this offense is to him. He wants to go be a top pro draft pick. He thought Nick Saban was going to do a lot better job. Coming in. That's Jermaine Burton right there.
Right.
So I just thought that was very interesting. They still have Brock Bowers there at tight end, but they return only 2 starting offensive linemen.
Yeah.
I see a defensive battle here for sure. And I do agree that I would lean Oregon first half, Georgia second half, almost make those 2 plays as they come.
And adding just one more comment, and when I say Georgia, it might get away from Oregon in the second half. And remember, Oregon went in, where was it? Ohio State here. Was it last year or the year before? And beat them.
Last year.
Yeah, went in there and beat them. So anything can happen with these. And this isn't David Girth's Goliath. This Oregon team's got a lot of speed and a lot of talent. But the one thing I'll tell you when I talk about maybe Georgia could put some distance between the two of them in the second half, one thing about Kirby Smart, he is one of the better in-game coaches there is out there. He makes a lot of adjustments in-game and always the right way. He makes a lot of smart coaching decisions. especially on the defensive side of the ball, when a team's moving it around on them. And I think that, I think it's going to take them the first half to kind of get their sea legs underneath them, so to speak, as you said, and get all the blocking schemes, perfected. And then maybe in the second half, after a nice little ass chew and a halftime, come out and probably pull out a can of whoop ass on them and put some distance between them.
Yeah, we'll see how that rolls. And I 100% agree. Let's move on to the next one. We have Rutgers versus Boston College. You picked this one, I believe.
Yeah.
Boston College -7 right now. The total is sitting at 48. I mean, this looks like an NFL point spread in total. -7, 48, my man. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, let's just look at it like an NFL game. Spread 47 total, spread 7. You want to take the underdog. I like Rutgers in this game. I think it's too many points. And by the way, 2 really good college football head coaches going at it on here. Schiano's turning things around. He had a bunch of recruits. Last year, he was using a Nebraska transfer that really wasn't any good at quarterback. And so they're going a different direction there. But Boston College here, and of course, Jeff Hafley at Boston College, a good coach. But Boston College is replacing their entire offensive line, including their tight end.
That's
5 guys up front, brand new. And Schiano knows how to coach. I think this is going to be, it's not a marquee game. It's not it's not Oregon and Georgia. It's not, Notre Dame, Ohio State. But this is going to be one of the better games that you're going to, if you want to see a good competitive football game and you like some smash mouth football, old school, this is the ball game. It's got it written all over it, and I'll take the points in a game like that. And, Rutgers was good at home and shitty on the road last year, but we'll see what they do here. But I think that they're going to be a competitive team with most teams all year, except, elite teams. But I don't think Boston College is an elite team. And I think what they're having to replace an entire offensive line, I think Rutgers will give them a ball game. I think that's too many. This could be 3 points one way or the other.
Yeah, this is an interesting game for sure. I didn't have a play on it, and I'm probably not going to make one. I think this is going to tell us a lot about both of these schools. One of the ones that just used watch too. I think that Rutgers, they do return their full secondary, but they were also really bad in the secondary. So the question is, did these kids improve, ranking so bad against the pass last year? That's what worries me. And you pull, obviously the biggest thing in this whole game is the offensive line, and the biggest question is the offensive line for Boston College, like you pointed out so well. Right. I like Phil Jurkovec. I think he's a good quarterback, and if he didn't get hurt last year, Boston College goes over that massively public season win total that everybody lost on last year.
Yeah.
That was.
I was one of them.
Man, there's a lot of people saying I was one of them, my man.
Yeah.
But it's almost where exactly I made the line, so I'm not going to touch it. But Schiano's got to do something one of these freaking days, and they got some speed. Milton on safety. They got some speed in their offensive wide receivers or skill positions, I'm trying to say. So I think that Rutgers has a fighting chance here at this one. And obviously it's not a big travel spot for them, just going to Boston from New Jersey. So that's one thing to think about as well. Let's move on to Boise State versus Oregon State. Oregon State -3. Total is at 57. So I know you might have a side on this one, but I think I'm going to lean my side. Both teams return a decent amount of productions. Both quarterbacks returning. Hank Bachmeier and Chance Nolan are back. Oregon State has a great offense under Jonathan Smith. They're net 0.73 net yards per play, but Boise somehow had a pretty good record last year. They're -0.23 net yards per play. Boise was weird last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost to UCF, Air Force, and Nevada while they beat BYU and Fresno State.
Yeah.
And they really hung in really well with Oklahoma State last year. Remember
Yeah.
losing that by 1 point here.
Yeah.
My pure power rating has Oregon State -5, just because I'm high on Oregon State this year in the Pac-12 North. I think it's just a weird division this year, a weird conference in total, minus Utah and USC, I guess. But I'm not going to make a play. What do you have on this?
Well, our power rating numbers differ greatly. I have, and you know, the thing that, and I did a free play video over, on our YouTube channel for Doc Sports. You can just search Doc Sports on there and watch it. But this was a free play, and um, the thing that you and I do, and we brought it up. You just brought it up, and I was going to bring it up here. Power numbers. 90% of the guys I know that handicap and bet professionally have power numbers on each team. And you weigh those numbers between two teams, what the difference is, and then you match that up against what the Las Vegas line is. And that's for the guys out there that don't know what overlays against the spread means. And that's the things that Mr. O'Neill and myself do. And we get the biggest ones, anything over 3 or 4, going down the list of 50 games, I'm circling those right out of the gate. Those are the ones I want to, and usually those are the ones I want to bet on Monday. And I'm not even putting picks out till Thursday, but those are the ones I'm personally going to bet. So we work all summer to put our databases together and our power numbers, folks. And I have a Boise State here, -3. They were getting 2.5 or 3. So that's a 6-point overlay. I'm going to circle that. And here's the thing. Then doing this 30 years, and I know, Kev, you've done it a long time too, I have to trust my numbers right out of the gate. All the hard work I did from April, spring games, all the way through the summer where we're doing baseball and WNBA and NBA playoffs and golf and NASCAR, all these other things I do. When I'm done handicapping those, I'm right back to the NFL and college, working on databases and power numbers, returning starters, this, that, and the other. You got to trust your number. It's kind of like a 2-foot putt, as I said on my video today.
Right.
And you're putting on a green that's running 13 on a stent meter, and it's a little downhill and it breaks hard right to left. You have to trust your line and go ahead and make that stroke on the line that you trust. If you don't trust it, you're going to miss the putt. Well, I trust my number, and I think the wrong team's favored. I think Boise State's a better team. And I want to thank Oregon State. Personally, I tried to send them a box of candy. My bowl game of the year last year was Utah State up against them. They were laying 6.5, and they got beat by 9. Oregon State. I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer in their coach that much. I'm not a believer in them. And trust me, I know Corvallis is a tough place to go in and play. There's no doubt about it. I've been to an Oregon when Chip Kelly was coaching there. I've been to an Oregon State game in Corvallis. It was a bucket list thing. I flew up, I bought a ticket, and I went. It was insane. I've been to Nebraska, Oklahoma, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, out here at Pasadena. The Red River War, I've been to that game. Been to Tennessee, Florida, and Knoxville. That game in Corvallis was just as intense as any of those.
Absolutely. So let me jump in here. So, and this is not uncommon that you and I are off on a power. This is week 0. We haven't seen most of these teams. We are going to be off more than ever from each other the earlier, and it starts adjusting and our stuff gets closer together. Sure. What we hope is that we're with the market. Now, I'm -2.5 points different, and it came up to 5, but this is a 3-point spread here, and it's not like I'm up to a key number of 6. Plus, I'm adding the week 1 variance of how I'm off, you're off, the market's off, everybody's off, the odds makers are off. Yeah, it's just almost a big free for all. But if you're this much off, God bless you, Tony. You should be making that play, especially when the total is not that high. being
Yeah.
at 57. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
You're right. And,
what you say
and the
makes
thing
sense.
of it is, we're not having folks watching this. We're not having a contest saying your number's wrong and my number's wrong. Guess what? The odds makers number on Nebraska last week was 12. They got beat straight up, folks.
Yeah,
Nobody
absolutely.
knows. There's a lot of speculation involved here. That's why we're telling you to back off these. But I will say the one comment I will give this Boise State team is I thought they were the best 7-5 team in the country last year.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly.
In my opinion.
I have to look at all 7-5 teams, but yeah, they were
Yeah.
they were decent. EPA, they were about 50th. I think Oregon State was 39th. I just think that they beat some big teams and had some boneheaded losses, but let's see if Hank Bachmeyer can bring them out this year.
Yeah.
We have the next one from a listener, Mr. Patrick Backus, and he's asking about the Arizona versus San Diego State game. San Diego State is 6-point favorite here. The total is 6.5. Tony, the first thing I have to say about this is this line freaking stinks.
Yeah.
I mean, this line freaking reeks right now. This line smells. I mean, why is San Diego State only a 6-point favorite here against Arizona? They blew out Arizona at Arizona last year. Arizona only won one game last year. Well, I'll tell you why it is 6 points. The Wildcats, obviously terrible. San Diego State was the second best, maybe Mountain West team, if you don't want to include your Boise or, Fresno, and Utah State was a bit lucky.
Yeah.
The thing about this line is that Arizona somehow was able to get some damn good transfers in.
Yeah.
They got Jaden DeLora from Washington State, who was fantastic for that school last year. And they got UTEP's best receiver, Jacob Cowing, who was pretty much that whole freaking team last year. The reason they won 6 games last year. I had to upgrade this Arizona offense significantly, and they ranked 43rd in returning production. They have a couple extra transfers. San Diego State, on the other hand, 115th in returning production on offense, only returns one wide receiver, 2 offensive line. They're getting Braxton Burmeister for Virginia Tech, and I didn't like Braxton Burmeister that much for Virginia Tech. So this line stinks for a reason, and it makes me think that Arizona somehow is the right side. Am I going to have the balls to put it down? Maybe not, but that's my best advice I can give you.
Well, there's a lot of sharp money that's came on Arizona. This thing was as high as 11.5 early on.
Yeah.
And now I just looked on my Don Best live odds, and we've got 2 spots at 5.5. Dude, it's dropping. And here's the thing. The total here, I got 46.5, 40. Yeah, and San Diego State, known for their defense. And the other thing is a little bit of a distraction here. They're playing in a brand new stadium. They're just opening. This is the inaugural game in their new stadium for San Diego State. And this game's on CBS. So there's a lot of stuff kind of surrounding this, somewhat of a distraction. I think their offensive production is going to be minimal. And I think they're going to get everything that Arizona's gotten in some here. And I think that this might be I think San Diego State's a better team. I have them power rated higher, obviously. But something about this, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, you know what they say.
Yeah, exactly. It's 18% of the tickets are on Arizona and 72% of the money is on Arizona. That's a 56% difference in that. It's just like that's called a sharp side. I mean, that's when it's that big of a difference, the sharp money is on Arizona. But now you can't say it's sharp at 6. It was sharp when they took it earlier.
Right.
So people have to keep that in mind, that the line value might be gone. And a lot of these guys that made that play, moving this market, might be coming back on the other side. And it might be a good time to do that. So being able to middle and take double your money and without, leaving your risk on the table, taking a risk away is massive. So that's what's going on with this game. Let's move on. We have no, this is the last one, I think. Florida State versus LSU, my man. LSU.
That's going to be a premium play of mine, but I'm curious to know. You'd mentioned that, and I said I'm going to listen to the discussion. I'm curious to get your take on this one. I'll make a few comments, but I'm definitely going to put this pick out over at DocSports.com, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are with Brian Kelly coming in there.
Absolutely. And this game is very cool because it almost happened last year. And I think almost the way you handicap it is from Notre Dame, Florida State last year a little bit, because Brian Kelly coached for Notre Dame. Now it's obviously different with a lot of new kids, but he's also took a lot of experienced kids, maybe got the most number of transfers out of any team into LSU this year, including Jaden Delora there, or Jane Daniels, I would say, the quarterback from Arizona State. So he transfers in and he's competing against redshirt freshman Garrett Newsmeyer. And, Miles Brennan retired a few days ago. He said, I'm done with this. He was probably not going to get the job. And he said, I'm done. My football career is done, which is smart. If he's not going to make it after all these years, Miles will hang it up and, fix your major and do whatever you got to do. But this is the way I look at this game is that there's so much havoc, it feels like, on LSU that I can see points being scored. I think that the offense will be together. But this is Florida State on the other side, and Mike Norvell, which we've known has always played very fast-paced football. I can see them getting some points too. I actually thought Florida State had the brutal schedule having to play Notre Dame and Florida in their non-conference, and then going to Clemson. I mean, let's face it, Florida State last year had one of the hardest schedules in football, and they actually turned out like semi-decent. They only lost to Florida by 3 points towards the end there. I thought they made some weight there, and they still get recruits there. I think they're scoring some points, and I also think LSU puts up some points. So, this number is pretty close to where I make it. I think I make LSU like 4 or 5, but I think this total is too low at 51.5. Last year when Notre Dame played Florida State, this thing got up to like 70s, 80s. This score went high. It was crazy. And I almost feel like this coaching matchup has the potential of doing so. When there's so much havoc going on and talent on offense, I'm going to like the over.
I remember last year that Notre Dame, Florida State. I remember it because I was at the Cosmo. And we had some people in town, and we were some fan of the STK, that steakhouse there at the Cosmo. And they said, well, a ribeye like $89. I said, you know what, honey? I'm going to go out to the bar and get an appetizer and watch a Florida State Notre Dame game. And in that game, as you may have remembered, Notre Dame had a huge lead, Kelly coaching, and Florida State put in the ex-Milton, the ex-quarterback from when Scott Frost was at Central Florida. And they brought him off the bench, and they damn near beat him. And the bottom line is here, Florida State last week had a big win. And what I found interesting, that's the first season opener Florida State's won since 2016. That's crazy. But the one thing in that ball game, and I know it was Duquesne, so let's not get carried away, but Florida State had 300-yard rushers in that game. 3 100-yard rushers.
A lot.
And very fast-paced, a lot of off-tackle stuff, a lot of misdirection, and play action. If you're successful doing that with a deep running back unit, your play action is going to work as well. And I think I agree. I think this could be a higher scoring game. And I think Florida State's going to give them a ball game.
Yeah. I think there's a chance that Florida State can hang in here. And it's the first game for an LSU, for the coach. And I like Brian Kelly. I think he was underrated, but there was a reason he left Notre Dame is because he couldn't take him higher. It's like when you're already starting out up there at the playoffs, it's almost like you'd rather take over another team, get another 5 years of guaranteed pay. And he got 100 million reasons why to do that. And that was a smart move. I mean, it's like if you top off in the playoffs, just like what happened to Washington's coach, there's no other. Your fans are going to like lose on you, But if you start with 3 wins and you move up to 7 wins, they love you.
Right.
It's just a completely different situation, and that's why he did it. But so you kind of like the Florida State side, it sounds like.
Well, I just think that I think there's a big rush in people's minds that you listen, folks. Don't listen to Kirk Herbstreit and these guys on game day and these college football today on ESPN during the week. They're just laying down the red carpet for Kelly. And, I think he's a better than average coach. I don't think he's a great coach. You saw his performance as a head coach in big games in the BCS. Coach of Notre Dame, they got their ass handed to him. And in some games in the middle of the game when they were getting their ass handed to him, he didn't make a single change, except to yell at players on the sideline. I mean, so I'm not a huge fan. But don't be so quick to think that he's just going to turn LSU around. They were deplorable under Orgeron last year. And on the other side of the coin, Florida State's had a rough go on of it. But if they continue to give Norvell, this coach, a chance, Florida State's like Nebraska. It's never going to be Bobby Bowden, and Nebraska's never going to be Tom Osborne again. It's just not going to be that. It's not going to be that way. There's too much parity in college football. The transfer portal has kind of leveled the playing field for a lot of teams, except Nebraska last weekend. But at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a lot more competitive game than people think it is. I put it to you that much. I'm going to be looking at the total here for a premium play.
Awesome, me too. But let's make that official. Over 51.5 for 2 stars from me. Tony, we are out of time, my man. Where could our listeners and viewers get your great information and plays?
DocSports.com. Been around 51 years. Good outfit. Kev, you met the owner last week. Wade, of course, his dad started it in 1971. And 90% of the stuff over there, folks, is free. There's free plays and videos on almost every game this weekend. There's 12 handicappers. I'm one of them. I'm coming off a 61% year and looking forward to kicking some butt and taking some names. And we give you a free $60 for any new account. You can just text the word Tony to 29022. Know something pop up on your phone. You can sign up right on your phone. So just text Tony to 29022 and get the weekend free. And because we'll give you $60 and daily packages are 30. And I've been around 30 years, and you can watch me daily on YouTube. Just type in Doc Sports for a search there as well.
Sounds great. Make sure you guys check out Doc Sports and Tony George. Tony, always a blast talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on.
You bet, buddy. Good seeing you in Vegas. I'll be down for Phoenix and you can buy some drinks.
Sounds good to me.
All right, buddy. All right, bye.